When a billionaire stomps into a debate and stares a U.S. senator down, you don't just get a discussion, you get fireworks.
Enough for us to pay for all those roads and bridges and bring them into the 21st century at the top of the line. We could pay for all of that if we just ask those at the top to pay a little bit more.
Senator, that would take that's a philosophically different approach than taxing income, though, because it's the wealth that people have. The wealth that people have, they've already paid taxes on it as income.
Time out. Jeff Bezos has not paid taxes on the wealth that he has.
Ken Langone might want it. Ken, what do you think of a wealth tax or truck?
A wealth tax is negative compound interest. What it is. You're right. I made all the money. I paid the government what I owed them. What I had left, I put at risk. I could have lost it all, but I paid my share. I have a bigger issue for the senator that I think I would hope she would address that to me is apple pie and motherhood.
Ken Langone, the Home Depot titan who clawed his empire from nothing, just criticized Elizabeth Warren's crown jewel, the wealth tax. And he didn't sugarcoat it. Fairness. He tore that idea apart and slapped it with a label no campaign slogan can spin: negative compound interest. Every dollar she wanted to grab, a slow, relentless drain on the entire economy. Warren tried the textbook pitch, a tiny extra tax on the ultra-rich to fund roads, bridges, infrastructure. The polite version of, let's make it fair. Langone wasn't buying it, not even close. He slammed a challenge so bold it made the cameras flinch, cut Social Security for wealthy retirees like him, forced corporations to actually pay their share, shut down the carried interest loophole. Real fixes that rake in cash without nuking the economy. And when the pressure hit, Warren flinched. She pivoted, sidestepped, and circled back to rehearse talking points. That's when the showdown went nuclear. This wasn't a debate anymore. It was an economic cage match, live, and every second could topple a career.
Senator,
could we talk about the wealth tax just for a minute before we change subjects here?
Senator, I have an easy one for you, and you're going to be shocked that I'm bringing it up from a fat cat Wall Street guy. How do you rationalize giving me $3,000 a month check every month with all my wealth? Why don't you people have the courage to address entitlements as to what should no longer be an entitlement? I shouldn't get Social Security. Second thing, I pay a minimum alternative tax. I pay a tax no matter what my deductions. I owe the government so much money. Why don't corporations have a minimum tax? Third, what about the carried interest? Why not address that? These are home runs in terms of right versus wrong, in my opinion.
Langone didn't even bother with niceties. He hit the stage like a hammer. A wealth tax? He barked. Negative compound interest. Boom. Translation, you're punishing people for actually winning, for taking risks, for building something real. He didn't just throw words, he threw proof. Every dollar he'd earned had already been taxed. Every penny left over, invested, risked, pushed back into the economy. He could have lost it all. And now, Warren wanted another cut. Every year, like clockwork. Then he dropped a line that made the room freeze.
A wealth tax is an opportunity to say if you're at the very, very top, you have to make a contribution too.
Senator, I have a question. Isn't it a contract that were made with the American people about our income taxes? By the way, I've gotten so much more money out of Social Security. I'm going to be 86. I beat the charts. I've gotten so much. I've gotten more than my share. We all know one thing. Times change.
The kind of confession billionaires almost never admit on camera. I shouldn't be getting Social Security. He's 86, pulling $3,000 a month for himself, $1,000 for his wife. And he dared to challenge the system, live, on stage. Take it away! He dared her, have the courage to do it. And he wasn't done. 2 more bombshells. Make corporations actually pay a minimum tax. Shut down the carried interest loophole, letting hedge fund managers waltz past the IRS. These weren't political slogans. These were slam dunk fixes that raise cash without torching the economy. But Warren, she circled back, played the script, pivoted. And that's when Langone smelled the dodge. The dodge that told everyone watching this wasn't about fairness or policy. It was theater. And he wasn't about to let the audience leave thinking otherwise. Warren switched gears. The voice of the classroom, the chalkboard queen. She tried to school the billionaire, laying down lectures about fairness and moral obligation. "Just a little more every year," she said, painting a picture of roads, bridges, and shiny infrastructure. But Langone didn't flinch. Then came the Bezos bombshell. Warren cited him like a textbook example. Ultra-rich, barely taxed, but Langone shot back with a stare that could cut glass. Bezos isn't some untouchable anomaly. He's proof the system already rewards ambition. Taxing him more? That's not justice. It's slow-motion destruction of the very engine that fuels growth. The clash escalated. It wasn't just policy anymore. It was a live-fire showdown between idealism and reality. Every pivot Warren made, Langone read like an open book. Every example she waved like a banner, he flipped into a cautionary tale. The stage wasn't just a debate. It was a warning sign flashing red for anyone who thought ideology could override economics. Langone's frustration morphed into a full-on economic alarm bell. A wealth tax? He called it cyanide for the economy. Every year, the government would creep in, revalue your assets, and snatch a slice, whether you cashed out or not. Stocks, double-dipped, homes, retirement accounts, small businesses, all fair game. This wasn't about billionaires losing a few bucks. This was a blueprint for bleeding the middle class dry. Langone didn't mince words. The truly rich can dodge, restructure, or vanish offshore. But regular Americans? They'd have to sell what they built just to pay the tax. He painted the math in stark, cold numbers, a hollowed-out middle class, a slow-motion financial massacre, exactly the nightmare Democrats supposedly ignore. Warren tried to pivot, spinning the classroom chalkboard lines again, but Langone saw right through it. She wasn't countering, she was dodging. And the tension, palpable. You could almost hear the economy holding its breath. Then came the curveball. Trump. Yeah, you read that right. Langone, the Wall Street titan, the Home Depot co-founder who's not afraid to call out senators, dropped a bomb. He had been wrong about tariffs. Once, he'd clashed with Trump, calling those tariffs catastrophic for business. But numbers don't lie. By July, Trump's so-called Liberation Day tariffs had pulled in over $150 billion, nearly double the previous year. Suddenly, Langone was conceding ground, admitting reality had flipped the script. Langone's frustration, it wasn't just numbers, it was the theater of it all. To him, Warren's wealth tax wasn't about fixing the economy, it was a campaign prop, a shiny promise that sounds righteous but hides a Trojan horse. Sure, it targets the ultra-rich, headline-friendly, applause-worthy, but in practice, it risks hollowing out the middle class while leaving the real system untouched. He didn't hold back. Democrats, in his view, love a two-tier setup. Elites paying the bills, a dependent lower class collecting the crumbs, and everyone else stuck in limbo. The middle class? Essentially invisible. And here's the kicker. Langone argued Warren knows the math doesn't work. She knows the consequences. Yet she pushes forward anyway. That's not naive. It's calculated. Meanwhile, Republicans trot out slogans like tax cuts without offering structural fixes. In Langone's eyes, this isn't policy. It's a scoreboard. And Warren, she's playing to keep it exactly the same. Langone didn't flash a MAGA hat, but make no mistake, his message landed squarely in Trump territory. The economy, he said, needs a reset that actually levels the field without gutting it. MAGA's tariffs and protectionist moves? Not ideology, results. Billions in revenue, industries propped up, and a middle class that didn't get crushed in the process. Now, compare that to Warren's wealth tax. Year after year, she wants to skim off savings, punish investors, and bleed anyone trying to build generational wealth. Langone's words hit hard. It's a slow-motion wipeout of the middle class, and he didn't sugarcoat the politics behind it. He argued that some policies might unintentionally create dependence while leaving broader structural issues untouched. He issued a strong warning, chilling even. Buy into rhetoric over results, and the wealth tax could kick off an economic bleed you can't reverse. By the time Americans feel it, it might already be too late. Langone concluded with a strong statement. No sugarcoating, no political niceties, just a raw plea to Washington. Stop gambling with the country's future. The old play by the rules and you'll do fine model? Dead. But stripping assets from people who played smart? Not the answer. The fix, he said, is rebuilding a system that rewards growth, innovation, and risk-taking for everyone. Warren's wealth tax? A slow-motion wrecking ball, ready to crush not just billionaires, but the very people clawing their way up the ladder. And he called out both sides with surgical precision. Democrats pushing dependency-driven policies, Republicans coasting on decades-old slogans. The only way forward? Bold, targeted reform that makes the U.S. globally competitive without suffocating the citizens it's supposed to serve. His takeaway was crystal clear. Fix the system, don't burn it down. Anything less? Politics masquerading as progress.